Now, a logical question should have popped up into your heads is, what happens if two interfaces both require the same method to be implemented? Void speak, for instance. So notice that an animal speaks and a pet speaks, and so each one requires speak to be implemented, and yet we're only implementing one instance of speak down in our dog class. We have call owner, eat, and speak. So which one is this actually using? Well, notice that both of these say one implementation. And really, because they are the exact same requirements, they're both void, they have no parameters, it doesn't really matter that much which one it takes. But sometimes you may want to explicitly state, hey, this method is for animal, and we're going to create a second one for pet, just to differentiate the two. So you can do that through this explicit interface implementation. And so with this, you can go ahead and instead of just saying void speak, you can go ahead and say void iAnimal dot speak. Now, when you do this, you'll notice that the modifier public is not valid for explicit interface implementation. You cannot state that it is a public interface anymore. It has to be just a void, which will kind of be, it's basically still public, but you cannot say public void, it just has to be void. Notice that now we have an error here. Interface member, CS interface, iPet speak is not implemented. So we implemented the animal speak. Now we need to implement the pet speak. And to do that, we just go down here, we just say iPet speak. So now we can go ahead and change these lines here and say iAnimal, and then we could say down here iPet, just to identify which one is actually getting run. So now if we look down here, notice that novo.speak no longer works. Cannot access private method speak here. Because we no longer have a method called just speak, we do have a method called iAnimal speak and iPet speak. So you might be thinking, okay, well, let's just go ahead and do iAnimal dot speak. Well, it's not going to work. Cannot resolve symbol iAnimal. So this means that you cannot actually state novo.speak. What you can do, though, is once you create an instance of dog, novo in this case, you can create an instance of iAnimal, and then animal is equal to novo. And now if you do animal dot speak, that will call this one there. And we'll go ahead and do the same thing for iPet. Pet.speak. And this will call this pet there, we'll call this iPet dog goes bark. So now when we run this, iAnimal dog goes bark, iPet dog goes bark, dog eats, and then calling me. So notice that we have to instantiate each interface as a variable and then store that dog variable, novo in this case, into that, and then we gain access to this speak method. This will be a little bit more familiar when we start talking about delegates and events and stuff like that. This type of syntax will make a lot more sense. But unless you have a special implementation here where you implement each one, you can't normally just create an instance of that interface. You can do this because we have the speak, which is explicitly defined inside of Novo, and in order to identify which one we're going to be taking, we need to create an instance of that interface.